Okay, good evening. Welcome back.
Man, that
Cap
was
and Trade.
dramatic right there. I felt like I was like
Sir.
in a waiting room at the theater.
Yes, sir. Episode 41. Welcome everybody in on if you're listening on Twitter Spaces or Twitter Live or YouTube Live. We're hitting all the sources as best we can. I am Texans Cap. Go by Texans Cap on Twitter. And we got the Cap and Trade YouTube channel joined by Landry Locker of 610 Radio and the Locker Room on YouTube. Landry, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I'm loving this process. I'm loving the way everything's going. Loving the discussions that we have going on with this season. Loving the arguments about whether you want them to lose or don't want them to lose. Looking back on the picks that Caserio's made, because I think the halfway point is where you can evaluate. You know, like everyone says, well, you don't rush to judgment, or we got a lot of season left. But at the halfway point, you can really assess things. And I'm enjoying just being able to assess things. And this is where we're just gathering as much information as possible heading into the future of this organization.
Yeah, it definitely hit the hot spot, halfway through the season. And now you want to be positive. You want to see, like, at this point, I view it as you want to see competitive losses, right? You want to continue the losses, but you don't want to have the blowout.
Or do you, if you want a new coach? That's the other angle to it. Sometimes you want competitive losses, but sometimes if you think the coach is kind of showing himself a little bit and you wonder if he's the right guy for the job after this year, do you want competitive losses? See,
Yeah,
just threw a curveball at you.
Yeah,
Now there's just another way to look at games.
Yeah, so it's, we'll dive right into that. Is Lovie coming back next year? And it's too early to say, but if he's going to be back, I definitely don't want him as a defensive coordinator as well. If he needs to be more of a figurehead, head coach only, and bring in a new defensive coordinator. And I was watching your show earlier today where you were talking about the differences in Chicago Bears defense when they had Ron Rivera for 3 weeks, then Lovie in his own, or 3 years. I'm sorry. 3 years, and then 3 years of himself and his guy, and then he brought Rod Marinelli in, and it was a drastic difference between from the 3 years that Lovie was manning it.
They were never in the top half.
Yeah, they dropped out compared to Ron Rivera and Rod Marinelli running things. So it just kind of makes me concerned. You see the same thing here. I think a lot of fans, including myself, were looking forward to this season, hoping that the defense would at least be a middle of the pack defense, right? And they're obviously not even close. The pass coverage is pretty solid, but the rest of the unit is just really bad. The front seven is really bad. And they're not even a middle of the pack defense. They're a back end of the defense, back end of the league. And so that just, do you bring Lovie back, or do you face that PR backlash of yet another one and done under Nick Caserio, especially under the circumstances that Lovie was hired under, with the lawsuit and the drastic change from McCown or Gannon or whoever they were going to go with before they shifted to Lovie Smith on a Sunday night at 10:30 p.m. when that Adam Schefter tweet came out. It just makes you wonder what direction will the team go. And if Lovie's going to stay, I can be sold on that, but it's got to be a new offensive coordinator. It's got to be a new defensive coordinator. Frank Ross has to stay, obviously, but that would kind of be my contention on the matter.
Yeah, I agree with you. The thing that I think that shouldn't come into play is perception or PR, because I think now that Jack Easterby's gone, I do think a lot of the stuff that made this place, not completely be able to put the BS from the past in the rear view was because he was there. So I think because of that, because I did hear there was at least one GM that didn't want this job because Jack was here. Right. And McLean has said it on the air. I think he was from Seattle, whoever they interviewed from Seattle. So I've heard that, like that was on our show. So I'm not like breaking news there. So I do think the job is more appealing. And I think that if perception is something they're going to worry about, I think they're doing themselves a big disservice. Now, we can make the case for and we can make the case against. And I think both of us want to make it clear, Bill Belichick, Buddy Ryan, like no coach could make this defense really, really good. We agree on that, right?
Yeah, the personnel is not there, and not for the system that they're trying to run, at least.
Exactly. And that's my thing, is that even when they do have the personnel, I just don't think that Lovey's the one that can coach this team up. So you ask yourself the question, like, are they going to be ready next year to where if they do have a good offseason, they can be like, maybe the Giants or something like that and coach above what you think they should be? Like, can they coach up the players? Will they have a good enough team for that? I think it's possible. And if so, I just don't know that Lovey's the right guy for that. We know he's not long-term. So I don't know that he's the right guy for that. I can understand the other side of things where, you want to keep growing, you want to keep developing, you want to let the process play out. You want to give him more of a shot. But if I were Nick Caserio, I mean, it would definitely be a discussion. It would definitely be a discussion with everybody that I trust. We would get around and we would talk about pros of keeping Lovey, cons of keeping Lovey, where we are now compared to where we were when we hired him, all the differences, so that you can explain that, this is much different than when Deshaun Watson has ongoing legal negotiations, when Deshaun Watson wants to be traded, when Jack Easterby's still here, when the Flores lawsuit and everything is going on, when Josh McCown is being linked to us, and all this stuff, and why this is much different. So I completely think that this is at least a discussion that's being had, especially if you're watching this team. If you're watching this team play and you're watching the way that things are playing out, I think this is at least a discussion to be had, regardless of how you feel about it.
Yeah, it has to be a discussion that has to be had, obviously, at the highest levels. And even if you kept him for a year, I mean, I don't really see the point in that. I mean, he came here, he steadied the ship, post Watson, post Easterby, post whatever era. Things they start to look like a functioning organization at this point. So now you just have to decide, can Lovey take that next step? And I'm just not entirely sure he can. Maybe he can kind of float through another year, but he's really not the long-term solution, regardless.
I mean, you're basing it on 15 years of data too. Like, it's not like it's his first year coaching.
Right. And so I almost feel like maybe you can promote him up into like the Romeo Crennel, type of, just associate, whatever title you want to give him, that's not a head coach. And, maybe that's something else he'd be interested in. I don't know that Lovey would be interested in that kind of role with the team, but it worst comes to worst, you find another coordinator, defense, offense, and Lovey stays on for another year with a very, 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 very slim opportunity of making it through the season. If the team is not even close to sniffing the playoffs next year, then you make the move midway through the season, but then it's just another wasted year. So, and also you just kind of have to really decide, is he the person if you drafted the quarterback, is he a person that you want mentoring and bringing in and helping develop that quarterback, regardless of who your quarterback coach is and your offensive coordinator? I'm just not entirely sure he's that guy. I'm not entirely sure.
I think he deserves a lot of credit for that, man, because, it's easy to just crap on him, and you start evaluating him as a guy that is coaching when expectations are greater. But this is the thing, man. Like, for this situation, I still think he was very, very good. Like, I don't think they made a mistake hiring Lovie Smith with where they were. I think they can make a mistake of keeping Lovie Smith too long, or not, fixing the things around him like coordinators. But just the fact that we're having this discussion, and the fact that they have gotten from where they were when they hired him to where we think they're going to be this offseason with all the assets and the opportunity in front of them, that speaks to Lovey bringing some stability and allowing some credibility to be there. And because I don't think with David Culley that things would be as stable. Like, I don't like, say what you want, I don't think they would be as stable. I think it would be a little bit silly. I always thought there was like a silly factor with David Culley. I do think Lovey deserves credit that we're even talking about the next step, because I think he was right for the previous step, or the step, I guess, that we're in right now.
Yeah, that's pretty much in line with what I'm thinking is, and he's steadied the ship. He's got he's helped the organization get back in line, like we're talking about, functioning like a real organization. And that's what you needed. And now we're here. So now what's next? What's next is trying to continue revamping the young core, phase out some of the other veterans. You're still going to have to keep some veterans around, but start shifting this team back to a younger player set and continue that development and continue to find who your core player is. You already have 2 or 3 players in there, and this next draft will be another step towards building that core. It's just the decision, is he the man to continue this development? Yes, he can keep the organization steady, but can he take it to the next level? And that's just something that's going to have to be a good discussion point between Nick Caserio and Cal McNair and anyone else that's involved in that discussion. So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, it's clear this team's probably not going to end up more than 2 or 3 wins at best. Hopefully it's 2-16, and the second win is against Cleveland in December when Watson.
Well, hopefully the Raiders win another game.
Yeah, they're playing Denver this weekend.
We need something.
Hopefully we can get them, and that give us that 1.5 game buffer.
Yeah,
because
that tie could come back to bite you really hard.
Yeah, I mean, luckily the team lost to Las Vegas, so that helps a little bit in the head-to-head.
No, because the tiebreaker doesn't come into play now because of the half game. The half game separate. Yeah. So if Las Vegas has as many wins,
then,
so you really need to be 2 up on them.
Yeah. So you need them to get to 3. Yeah.
The other thing that I think is, as we put a bow on the Lovie thing, is the other thing that I think comes into play is, do they love someone that's out there? Because if they don't love someone that's out there, then maybe they think they just keep it going and figure out what Lovie can do. And maybe Lovie can do something. I just think he needs a new defensive coordinator. And I think he has a hand in the offense too. I don't think it's easy to call offense for Lovie Smith. There's some coaches, like offensive coaches in college, like the air raid guys, where you talk to a defensive coordinator and dude, it's hard.
He's not in there. He's not in there scripting up the first 40 plays of the game, but he is saying we want to run the ball and we want to, we want to do this. He came out and said that. He spoke for Pep Hamilton about what they want to do. Yeah, he's in there going, we need to get this amount of yards per carry, because we've heard him say that number over and over and over. And he's in there saying we need to get this game built upon running the ball, and then we can set a play action or whatever it may be from there. But yeah, I'm sure he's in there giving his input at a 30,000 foot level and going off of that. So
do you not think it's funny how the Ron Rivera story with him, I guess to a certain point you can say, I get it, on the surface, that you and Ron Rivera like the same style of football, I guess, but they're nothing alike with the way they coach. He said, yeah, we both kind of have the same football. No, I don't really think so.
Is not the same as the guy who punted for a tie.
Yes, and the way that they Ron likes to blitz a little bit more. Now I know he might be blitzing a little bit less because they do have 4 first-round picks on the D line. Which, by the way, did we tell you about 97 last week, or did we tell you about 97 last week?
Dexter Lawrence.
But they don't coach alike.
No, they don't. And we'll see. Ron Rivera revenge game coming at you this weekend. So if there was
that was bad. Breakup was bad.
Yeah. No, it was interesting hearing that, because he didn't really fire me. I didn't really fire him. I didn't quit. It was a lot of he said there. So if they fire Lovie, do you think the head coach candidates from last season pop back up? I don't think so.
Jonathan Gannon might.
Gannon, it seemed like he kind of got hung out to dry in this last go around. At least during the Senior Bowl, it seemed like everybody that was at Senior Bowl left the Senior Bowl thinking it's Gannon's job,
right?
With McCown as associate head coach kind of thing, and then just out of nowhere they just went radio silent on Gannon, and he told him, "Nah, never mind. I'm gonna go back." So maybe he'd still be.
Start hearing McCown's getting second interviews and stuff. It's kind of
because he didn't. From my understanding, Gannon was very, very interested in the job. He just didn't understand what the structure was and what they were trying to accomplish with McCown, and they kind of just left him out to dry, left him out in the dark, and he was just like, "No, I'm not going to have any of this."
Well, he did a good job. I think he made the right decision.
Yeah.
I would say, because I think he's going to get another opportunity, and he'll be able to pick the opportunity that's, best for him. Not everybody is. I took one of these jobs. I took this because it's one of 32. David Culley at his opening press conference. Some guys are like, yeah, maybe I should wait another year and be a defensive coordinator.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of them being a functional organization, we'll move off the Lovie thing for a little bit. So the team, made some waiver claims the past 2 days. So we saw Benjamin from Arizona, 7th round pick. He's brought in. Everybody was on their tippy toes trying to find out if Dare was going to be the odd man out, but the team is elected to go with 4 running backs. So that'd be interesting. So, Harrison,
is Rex Burkhead going to be active? Is his role on offense just so important that they need him active? Because Dare's on Dare's special teams. Dare's special teams. Do they think Rex is that valuable?
He's very special. He's very special. He's very functional and versatile on special teams.
He's good.
And, obviously, Benjamin, he'll be inactive this weekend. I don't foresee him being ready to go for this weekend. But the last 7 weeks of the season, it's going to be interesting if Burkhead starts getting phased out. Maybe they say, okay, we need to see what we have in Benjamin. We need to see what we have in Dare. Rex, sorry, you just got to be inactive the last 4 weeks of the season. And, we'll see what happens. Both Benjamin's under contract through 2023 and Dare is under contract through 2023. Burkhead obviously is not. He's a free agent after this year. So, hopefully, I'm absent the discussion of what they do with running back in 2023 with the draft or free agent or whatever it may be. They still need to draft a solid RB2, but hopefully they can spend a few weeks
trying to 1B.
Yeah, that too. And try to, at least try to figure out this RB3, RB4 role. I don't know if Benjamin played any special teams in Arizona. I haven't really looked that hard at his numbers, his stats, or his snap counts or anything like that. So, obviously we know with Houston, if you're going to
have the highest yards per carry there.
Yeah. But we know with Houston, if you're not a starter and your name's not Rex Burkhead and you're a running back, you're going to need to be able to play special teams. And so we'll see if that's the case with Benjamin.
It's so funny because it's true.
And then today,
if you're not a starter, your name's not Rex Burkhead, you better be able to bring something else to the table.
Yep. And then today they put a claim in, claimed Amari Rogers out of Green Bay.
I called him Chester like twice.
Chester Rogers. Oh yeah. 3 weeks. What was your best memory of Chester Rogers? So Benjamin is interesting. So they let go of Tyron Johnson. His 3 weeks are here, gone. Kind of just held the fort until they got their players back. Cooks is back in the fold, at least for a little bit. Nico Collins is back healthy, which is a good thing to see. But Amari Rogers, he's 5'9", 212 pounds. And then they let go of Tyron Johnson. So now you have Brandon Cooks, who's not very tall, Chris Moore, slot wide receiver, and Amari Rogers, who's 5'9", Philip Dorsett, who's like 6'1" maybe, and then Nico Collins. So this might be the shortest wide receiver group in the league at this point. So
yeah, it's small.
He's
definitely playing small ball.
Yeah, he's a 3rd round draft pick out of Clemson, and
he fumbled. He has fumble issues.
He got benched and then released. He was a punt returner in Green Bay. Didn't play a whole lot of snaps on offense, but had some punt return abilities until he kept fumbling the ball until that's when he lost his job. So I really don't know what to expect out of Rodgers at this point, but it's just, it's good to see that Nick's still turning over rocks and see if he can find something, find a, not a diamond in the rough, but a contributor, right? You're not expecting anything significant out of Rodgers at this point, but he is under contract through 2024. So he's, it's another player to add to the roster for the future. Maybe you can spend these last few weeks of the season seeing what you have out of him, but it doesn't hurt anything. The team's first on the waiver wire. So it's, it's easy to get those claims in. You don't have any competition on them. And if it don't work, then you can release it and, move on. Just take a peek, take 2 or 3 weeks, take a look and see what happens. So that's pretty much what those two players, I don't really have any high expectations or anything out of them, but it'd just be good to see. I think everybody's a little more excited about Eno Benjamin than they were Amari Rogers at this point. I don't think there was
Yeah.
too many concerns with the wide receiver crew beyond what they have. So I think it was more so of, at the very beginning of the season is, why isn't Pierce getting more touches? Why isn't Pierce getting more touches? Now it's okay. We need to back off of the touches just a little bit. You want him to be in that 18 to 22, carries per game, not 28 to 30. He obviously can handle it, but I just don't know how that's going to wear on him for a full year and then go into his sophomore year and he starts falling off a cliff already because he was heavily used in the first season. So
There's
I think
just no juice when they bring in a backup back. Like every team has it, like every team, and some of them have like multiple ones that can do different things. Like you'll see someone coming out of the slot, or you'll see, Saquon rest for a series and Breida's in there, or you'll see Montgomery and Herbert, or you'll see Hines, coming in with Taylor, or even Hilliard and Derrick Henry. Like we can name the entire schedule, and they don't have that. And it shouldn't be too hard to get. Like you should figure something out. They've got to try to find that. You can't even it's sad for Dameon Pierce.
Yeah, I mean, he's
not a workhorse. That's not, or he might be, but he hasn't been. I'll put it that way. Yeah, he's figuring out how to be a workhorse after a 4-year, 3-year hiatus, whatever it was at Florida.
Yeah, I don't know. You see his running style, and I don't envision him as a complete bell cow type of running back. He's running so angry, so aggressively. He's almost like you said, a 1A, 1B. You want a compliment to him somewhere. And maybe Benjamin's that guy, but probably be somebody they find in the draft next year. But hopefully they can hopefully they can phase out Burkhead the last half of the season here and get Benjamin. Maybe Dare can actually get a few touches, because every time he gets 1 or 2 touches a game and he ends up running for 13 yards or whatever and keeps that yards per carry number up high like Lovie loves. So it's just, it's been frustrating, but it's good to see them making some claims, making some moves, churning the back end of the roster. You've got to keep that roster churn and keep looking, and hopefully you find somebody. But, that's the tough part about it. So, at this point, we were talking about the draft earlier. Texans looking at Tankathon today. Where are they at now? Let's see here.
1
and 9. So
that's coming. That's coming down.
Or
up, I should say. Up. That's going up. Next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what happens when they come here. It's gonna be wild.
I mean, they got a tough schedule the back half of the season. They're still, let's see here. They got Buffalo this weekend, Tampa, Houston, Cincinnati, Baltimore, New Orleans. That's a win for them. Washington and Pittsburgh. So they could probably, I mean, it depends on how rusty Deshaun Watson is, but they could probably squeeze out 6 wins and end up probably in that. I think it's safe to say they'll end up with, if Houston ends up with 1 and end up with Cleveland's pick being around 18 to 20. I think it's pretty safe to say.
Really?
Maybe 15. But that's still, I mean, that's good.
I mean, you're positive Deshaun's going to come in with nothing to gain. If they continue to crumble, they're kind of out of the playoff race. Although the playoff race right now, Indianapolis has 4 wins, and I think they're a game back. How many wins are you saying they have?
Probably 6.
Okay,
3 wins for the rest of the season. So that puts them, around pick 15, 18, somewhere in there. So I think it's safe to say, but at least that's how I view it. But, we'll see what happens. Be interesting. Everybody's going to keep watching that. And like I said, 2 wins for Houston, one of them being against Cleveland would be great here. We'll kind of jump off of that, jump back over to the defense. So we were talking about Lovie Smith and what this defense does and how it just doesn't seem to have any imagination to it or anything like that. And the personnel, like we were talking about, I think it's time for Kirksey to come off the field. I think it's time for Harris.
Get me started.
Harris to get the full play calling duties on the field.
Joining the show tomorrow, by the way.
Yes, and
11 a.m. Odyssey app. Get to talk to Christian Harris finally.
Bring in Blake Cashman more often, and you can rotate that third running back or third linebacker, however you want to handle that. There's many players on there, but wanted to get your thoughts on that. I mean, we know what Kirksey is. It's not going to change, and Blake Cashman's a free agent after this year, and he's very good on special teams. He's one of the best out of that unit, but he seems to show some flashes on the field. He's got good speed. He seems to find his way to the ball, but you want to see how he is in run defense, see how he is in coverage. And the only way to do that is have him get snaps. And just want to kind of get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Cashman strikes me kind of as a guy that's going to be around for a little bit, but never necessarily be like one of your top linebackers. But we do need to get a better look at him. I don't know what they think of Kirksey. Like, I'm with you. Like, in a perfect world, you get him off the field and you get other guys in. But he seems like, and I know that these guys have slowly kind of drifted away, but he seems like one of those guys that someone likes for some reason. Like Justin Britt, back. Kamu Grugier-Hill, back. Brandon Cooks, back. All these guys that they like. Rex Burkhead, back. Like, is Kirksey going to become the Rex Burkhead of the defense? Like, is he one of those guys that Lovie Smith likes? Because it seems like they like him. I could see Kirko becoming like the Rex Burkhead of the D.
Oh, my goodness. That's scary.
I mean, they still send him to the podium. He's still kind of one of the leaders. He does seem to be the most engaged out there. Like, for as bad as
he's playing his heart out. Don't get me wrong. He's putting in.
Yeah, he's giving it everything he's got. He's still a leader. That they respect him in the locker room. He's like with the guys a lot. And I do think, this isn't like, Rex Burkhead. I do think that there is some value to what he's doing right now and what he's putting himself through.
That's fair. I just think you just got to start same way.
But he should not be here next year. Let me make it that clear. He better not be back next year.
He may be here at least through like training camp. I don't know that you just flat out.
They got to figure that out.
I think you look at keeping him around. So he's due $5 million next year. Cap charge is $6 million. I mean, I hate to, you hate to hang a player out to dry like that, but you almost feel like you keep him around at least through training camp and then make a move in the final cutdowns. And that's just brutal for him, but
damn.
Yeah.
That's depressing.
It
taking
is
me a little back. Nah, he's giving it everything he's got. I don't really think that at this point he's an every down linebacker.
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, maybe
I don't know that he's a good 2-down linebacker either. So I don't know what his role is.
Yeah, and I don't know that you want him as your third linebacker. Maybe he's in there on base sets as third linebacker and they readjust the players, but that seems like a whole lot of additional work for no reason at all. So I don't know. I just think, like I was saying, with the waiver claims, you try to figure out what you have on the back end of your roster. Same with Cashman, same with Jake Hansen. You just got to see what you have in these players. Winning games is not the point at this portion of the season. At this point, you need to see what you have with the back end of your roster to make those decisions for 2023. And, it's the same thing with like Tavier Thomas comes in. All of a sudden, Desmond King's been playing relatively good for this year, especially compared to last year where he's finally back into his position of strength. And bam, second week back of Tavier Thomas, 70% of the snaps go to Tavier and Desmond King is relegated to backup duty at slot. So I don't know if that's to do with more of, Tavier was a top 10 slot cornerback last year, but he's been injured most of this year and just automatically gets the job back, but he's a free agent next year. So, I mean, there's places where they're making sense of who's playing just to continue the evaluation and make decisions for 2023. But then there's other places with like Rex Burkhead, Christian Kirksey. Those are not the players you need to be seeing out there on the field. Right. Those are players that need to be off the field to help you evaluate. And I just don't understand some of those decisions. And that's all back to the whole thing with Lovey. I just don't know if he can continue to make those kind of decisions, get the younger players out there and figure out what's going on. I don't know that he can use this defense in the right way. Like we were talking about the personnel. Don't even talk about Stingley. My gosh, look away if you look at his numbers, because those numbers are just, his statistics are just complete bullshit at this point with the way he's being utilized. And it's got to be frustrating for fans when you see everything talking about Sauce Gardner. Derek Stingley is going to be an extremely good cornerback in this league. Just need a defensive coordinator to use him properly. And I just, it's kind of just frustrating just seeing how everything is managed on that side of the ball. Absent of the offense and how things are going over there, but the defense, one of the worst in the league, and you just see the decisions that are made with the rotations out there, and it's tough to watch. It really.
You want me to put you on the spot right now?
Yeah, sure.
Because I always like to do this to you because I like to get your brain going.
Okay.
In less than 20 seconds, put together a list. Like if we were doing draft needs, and it can be anything, put together a list of things that you think they need the most and tell me at what point you get to another safety.
So they need.
I like Owens as a player on the roster, but I don't think that he is the guy that can be starting by Petrie.
No. Owens should be a depth guy.
Yes, and a good one. And a guy who still plays some defensive snaps, but they need another guy next to Petrie.
Yeah, if you had a defense that played a lot of dime, then Owens would be a very good third safety. Lovey doesn't play any dime at all. So there's only going to be two safeties out there. But yeah, you definitely need a center fielder so that Petrie can remain inside the box.
How big of a need do you think it is?
Gosh, it's like 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D at this point. The team needs a center. The team needs a guard. The team needs an edge rusher. The team needs a defensive tackle. The team needs a safety. The team needs it's like a top 5 need, but they're all. Yes, obviously. I was getting there. But there's 6 or 7 needs, and at this point, I guess it would just depend on the scheme. If
what would make the most impact is like, what can you? Because I don't think
we'll just have to assume that Lovey's here for next year for this discussion.
Oh Lord, that's hard.
Well, it just depends on the scheme.
But you can't do that because they drafted Stingley. Like that's the thing. Like they're not drafting guys for Lovey's scheme. Like, and I know he took offense to it, but like they're not even doing that.
No, I mean that's.
So I don't think it matters what his scheme is.
Yeah, there it is. Defensive tackle, center, defense. Tight end.
That's a good list. That's a good list. I don't disagree with this at all.
Tight end too. So it's.
Did he forget QB?
Yeah, he did.
Does he like it? Ask Chris if he forgot QB because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He has safety at 6.
Yeah,
and it's 7 if he
hardcore order, but
if he counted quarterback.
Yeah, and God, this free agent class is so bad too. It's like one of the worst free agent classes in a long time. There are a few defensive tackles out there, but you're going to have to pay a ton of money for them. Like Deron Payne or 97 Dexter Lawrence from last week, who's a free agent as well. But
oh yeah, you don't think they're going to do everything they can to keep that?
Yeah, I mean God, I would hope so. What do the Giants look like next year? Joe Schoen's been. Oh yeah, they got $60 million in cap space. He cleaned up everything. He cleaned up everything this year. He did what Nick Caserio should have done 2 years ago. But yeah, I mean, so back to safety. Maybe there's a few safeties in free agency that the team could look at. Let's see here. Let's see who's out there. Jesse Bates up in Cincinnati, coming off the franchise tag. Jordan Poyer up in Buffalo, but isn't he hurt? He's 32.
He's always nicked up, man. He's got a lot of heart. He plays nicked up though.
Let's see here. Oh man, that list got bad quick.
I mean, maybe they draft a safety. The good thing about safety is
there's like 2 safeties, Adrian Amos maybe, but there's God. See, every time I look at these positions, in free agency is just bad.
You can get a good
Maybe
safety.
you'll get a surprise cut out there.
With all those draft picks, you can find a safety. You can find a starter. You can find a starter.
Yeah, day 2, early day 2, maybe
3. Like you can steal some safeties.
There's Chris says we need quarterback too. So
okay. So
but yeah, I mean, maybe it's from one of your trade backs, that we're hoping that Nick can facilitate with that second first round pick and can gather more picks. But yeah, it's safety. And then if you draft a guy, Owens is not under contract next year. Maybe you resign him just to continue depth, or maybe he starts the season off. He started off this season very well. He's just continued to go down and down and down. And I don't know what that's a function of. I don't know if
he's worn out. He's worn out. He's
playing 100% of the snaps for the first 8 weeks of the year.
He's fine. He's a good player, man.
Like those crossing routes on play action where Stingley, Owens, Petrie, everybody is 25 yards off.
The middle is so open in this defense, just like everyone always said. Like it is open.
Right.
Do you think there's a double standard? Because I talked about this today. There's like a double standard with offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators that are also head coaches. Because if Lovie were an offensive coordinator, one of the main talking points would be he needs to get an offensive coordinator. I mean, he needs to be a walk-around head coach and replace himself as offensive coordinator. Like you wouldn't even budge, but you don't really hear that much. I mean, you say it, but like the dialogue with fans, it seems like you don't even pay attention to it. I'm guilty of it too. Like there's like an offensive bias.
I don't see that, but you have a better ear for it than I mean.
Do you hear like a lot of people saying that Lovie needs to be that? I hear people say Lovie needs to go, but I don't hear, and maybe this is more about Lovie as a coach, but I don't hear people saying, he needs to get a defensive coordinator.
No, there's definitely the sentiment out there is more that he needs to go versus he needs to get a defensive coordinator. Yeah, yes. I would agree with that. I just don't know if the team is looking, a lot of folks, like you said, you shouldn't be making those decisions based on PR, but at the end of the day, that's still going to be a factor in it.
Will it?
And I just, as long as he doesn't promote his son, maybe his son be a great coordinator. I don't know, but I don't feel like that's what even worse look. There's so much nepotism in the league as it is. So I don't know. Oh, it's frustrating. So if you're out there listening in on Twitter Spaces, you can hit the request button. Looks like we got one request in, so we'll get to that here in a second. You can tweet at the show on there. We had one tweet come in. If you are YouTube, post your comment. We'll try to answer the best we can.
Man, you're covering a lot of ground there, sir.
I am. Got a lot of sources going. So
God, that's a lot going on.
Yeah.
You got an 800 call in too or something? Is there like an OnlyFans stream?
That'll be next.
Does Cap have an OnlyFans?
Fuck no. Yeah, OnlyFans. Everybody can come in and watch me update my Excel spreadsheet with the new Cap number.
Oh God.
Did you see that nonsense in the Buffalo Minnesota game?
Yeah. I was streaming while it was happening, and it just seemed it was really, really weird, but I don't know how I would feel if I were a Buffalo fan right now. I don't even know if I'd really be that pissed off about it. Like, I know they're in third place. Like, some people might panic on Buffalo. I still, if Josh Allen gets healthy, and I think that's the biggest thing, he needs to get healthy because he's really nicked up. I wouldn't panic if I were Buffalo. I like Minnesota. I picked them to win the division this year, but I don't know that do you think Minnesota is the top 2 team in the NFC right now?
I can't figure them out. I mean, they're not on paper. They're not a 9-1 team, but my goodness, they just keep finding a way to win the game. And
I mean, they have some playmakers. Like, I'm not questioning that. It's just,
I don't see their roster. I don't see their team and think, oh yeah, that's clear number two seed in the NFC, and it just doesn't feel that way.
The other problem is you look at the rest of the NFC and you say, well, damn,
there
really is nobody.
Deep. Yeah, it's a very, very weak conference this year. by comparison. And, Philly finally lost their first game. But yeah, I was watching that game, and I mean, it was just so much back and forth. And then Allen fumbles the QB sneak, and Minnesota falls on it. And then Buffalo comes back and scores in 41 seconds. I mean, it's just.
And then Allen ends up throwing an interception in the end zone.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. So we did get one comment as well, and I know we're kind of bouncing all over the place. So can we discuss the field goal with clock running at the end of the game? That was.
See, I like the strategy a lot. And I think coaches should start thinking about doing that, like inside the 40-35, because it's actually harder sometimes to score the touchdown if you're like playing that close, or to kick the field goal, because you have to set up and you don't have timeouts. So, you have better odds if you're trying to go for the end zone or get to where you can get shots at the end zone. So I don't hate the strategy, but if you're going to have that strategy, I mean, good Lord, dude, can y'all go a little faster?
Yeah, I think that's what the comment was about. The fact that it took them 20 seconds to get that kickoff. They could have had a little urgency.
It takes away the whole point.
Right. If you're going to kick it and then go for the onside, get out there, rush, get it over with, get the kick down, and save yourself time to where if you have the onside and you happen to recover, then you still have time to run a play or two. But
the other thing that he did, because this was the first time, and I think really like clock management wise, I would have given Lovie probably like a solid B up to this point, maybe B plus.
4 weeks of the season, he was great on clock management.
Yeah, and he was great in the preseason, and those are real reps in the preseason. So I actually think that counts. But the end of this half, and maybe I think it might be as simple as they were waiting to see if the Giants were going to send the punt team out there, but they called timeout before they got the ball back, but they let like 21 seconds go off the clock before they did it.
Yeah, it made no sense at all. The way
do you think they were just like scared to actually have to try to stop them on defense, and they wanted to make sure they were going to line up and punt? Or do you think they just decided, it took them 20 seconds to decide, we want to call the timeout and get the ball back? Because that seems like something you should have decided before y'all went out there.
Yeah, it made no sense, and I wouldn't even be able to know what what the goal was there. I mean, they went out there like it was just a normal operation. There was no sense of urgency, and no. I don't know if there was something lost in communication, something didn't make it from Lovie to Frank Ross, or what happened there. So, Josh, that's our thoughts on that. So, if you got any other comments, make sure you post them up. We'll get to it. Leonidas over on Twitter Spaces has been patiently waiting for a while, and I think I skipped him last week, so we'll make up for it here. And there was a couple of little requests on Twitter Spaces, but it looks like they dropped out. So if you want to get back in there, hit that request button. We'll get to you. All right, Leonidas.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going, man? Hey, so when you guys were talking about Lovie, man, there was an article today that came out from Sports Score. I don't know if you heard of them. And they were saying that even though Smith is 64 years old, he still has the respect of the whole entire locker room. But the thing about it is the potential disruption regarding the star receiver, Brandon Cooks. There's a very real possibility chance that Smith could be a Texans' second consecutive one-and-done coach. I want to know what your thoughts about that, man. How serious you think that is? Because right now, it's looking like this really could be a one-and-done for him.
So, yeah, I think there is a real chance for it. And we kind of hit on that a little bit earlier. And I think there's a very real opportunity, or not opportunity, but real chance that could happen. But speaking to what you were talking about, what was written in the article, having the respect of the locker room, I have no doubt that he has the respect of the locker room.
I do too, 100%. Like, actually, I'll say this: 1,000%. He has the respect of the locker room.
What I question on the locker room is the culture and the relationships among the players and between coaching staff. From kind of just little tidbits that I hear from other folks, things are not all that great in the locker room. They may respect Lovie, but it just doesn't seem to have quite the cohesion among the players that you would like, is kind of the sense I get.
The problem that you have, Brandon Cooks is popular in that locker room. Like people, they like him a lot. And I don't think it's not like a malicious TO or, some tumultuous relationship organization situations in the past where it was just unprofessional and as out in the public as it could possibly be. But there are players who really look up to Brandon Cooks, and naturally, if you look up to this is just like human nature. Like naturally, if you look up to someone and that person feels like you've been following this guy for a year or 2 years, however long you've been looking up to him, and now all of a sudden a guy that's been telling you to buy in, trust the organization, trust the process. Now all of a sudden he's not even claiming that he knows what the process is. Like naturally you kind of feel some type of way about things. So I don't think that's necessarily Lovie's fault. I think it's just kind of, Cooks' relationship with Jack Easterby. But if you're a player and you look up to someone and he feels like, he's being wronged, you can say you just go about business, but they are human. And it's got to make them raise their eyebrows a little bit, whether it's at Brandon or the organization, who knows, but there is that possibility. And there are a lot of guys who still follow and look up to Brandon, I think.
Yeah. Leonidas, that answer the question?
Yeah, pretty much, man. Appreciate you.
I appreciate hanging on and waiting for us. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. If you want to chat in on the mic, just hit the request button on the bottom left there on your screen on Twitter Spaces. If you want to chat or get any questions, or you can tweet in on it. So let's see here. If Lovie comes back, he can't bring Pep back for a second year, right?
No. I don't think so.
No, I mean it. Even if he drafted another quarterback, I certainly don't think having Pep as the offensive coordinator is the right thing. So, no, I think it's going to be a one and done at the OC for Pep, regardless of the decision, whatever decision they go at quarterback. A little draft talk: Carter, Young, or Anderson? Who you taking at number one?
Young.
Well, if you saw my YouTube short, I'm all on the Bryce Young train now. I'm all aboard.
Young or Anderson, but Young preferably.
Yeah, no, I'm all in on that. The last game, I saw enough to give me enough confidence to feel like that's the decision to go. And there's still going to be that continued discussion of build around Davis Mills or bring in the quarterback. If you got the number one pick, you can't waste that opportunity, and you can't take the chance.
Depending on who's available. Like there's some years where you don't take a quarterback.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're not taking Blake Bortles on number one versus whatever, when they should have taken Khalil
or Malik Willis.
Yeah. No, but for this coming draft, if Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, quarterback is the choice to go, you make that, you utilize that number one draft pick for that kind of move. Because if you don't, you continue to build the roster around him, you still will have plenty of picks. The point I'm trying to make is instead of using your number one, you use your number one overall pick for your quarterback now, versus if you win 7 games next year, that means you have to use your pick, the Browns pick, maybe a future one or whatever it may be, to move up to get your quarterback versus. So now you're wasting 2 or 3 picks to get your guy versus taking your shot now. And I understand if the team is not bought into Stroud or Young and they don't feel like they're the guys, then by all means move on. But at this point, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't pass up on Bryce Young. He's got good presence in the pocket. He's able to move. He keeps his eyes down the field when he's moving out of the pocket. I'm not too terribly worried about his size. I think he's
got an arm.
Yeah, he can make all the throws, but I think he knows how to protect himself whenever despite the size issues. So that would be my choice. If they didn't go quarterback, I'd be a little disappointed, but I would have to have a good understanding of why that is. So,
well, if they don't go quarterback, that means they're getting a bad defensive player, whether it's Anderson or Carter or whoever. Yeah. So I wouldn't have. I mean, you're getting a bad mofo no matter what. Which, by the way, we're going to look back at that Jacksonville decision to get cute and take Walker over Hutchinson as one of the worst decisions in a long time. Hutchinson's going to be a game changer, and he already is changing games.
Yeah, he started a little slow.
Walker's not going to be as good of a player as him. It's not going to be close.
Be interesting. Yeah,
You think Walker's
no,
good?
I'm not, I don't. I know. I think Hutchinson was by far the better prospect.
They got cute.
I just don't. But that's Caldwell in a nutshell, or I mean, not Caldwell, Balky,
Balky.
and then that Balky.
Can you believe he was allowed to do that though?
He apparently has some amazing pull over there to be able to make that call, and
with how they were talking about him and they were talking about the regime, for him to be able to go out there and make a ballsy pick like that is wild.
Yeah,
it's wild. Like, and I don't know. I'm not trying to take us down that path.
No.
I think that's just a really bad decision by them.
No, I think a lot of. I mean, there was some analysts who tried to justify the decision, but
they're all measurements. They probably thought Linderbaum sucked because he had short arms too.
Yeah.
Those are all those scout nerds that are like, oh, he's got great length. He's got unrealized potential.
Playing well too. Chuck wants to know: is it possible to trade out of the number 1 slot at all?
Sure. Especially this year, if someone likes a quarterback, absolutely. Yeah. You can get a couple firsts. You can do that. That would be my second favorite scenario.
Yeah, that if you're not going quarterback, then you've got to try to sell that pick big time. And,
you get a couple firsts for that. That's a gold mine because someone's going to fall in love with the quarterback. You can get if it's someone in the 20s that gets desperate, man, you're talking a few ones.
You got the Lions at 5 who would need a quarterback. I wouldn't put it out of the Steelers, even though they have Pickett. I'd still
come on. You mean Josh Rosen 2.0 if they have the number 1 pick?
Yeah. Let's see who's down here. The Saints.
Man,
they don't even have a first round.
Eagles. That's the Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles have that pick.
They ain't going quarterback.
Colts need a quarterback. Falcons need a quarterback. So they're at 14, 15. Buccaneers at 16. So yeah, I mean, Chuck, you could have a dang lottery over that pick and pick up all kinds of ammo. But then again, you're passing up on that prospect, and it's gonna cost you more ammo to make the same type of move up the following year. I just find it hard to believe that this team would pull a Jacksonville and end up with the number 1 overall pick 2 years in a row. But if Davis Mills is your guy at quarterback, then that might happen.
Stop it.
Man, a lot of good stuff from the folks listening, and I appreciate everybody taking the time to listen in tonight. A lot of good folks out there. More comments coming in. Any thoughts on the Colts' future?
I think it's intriguing. It's intriguing, man. And the immediate future is intriguing because, man, tomorrow, if Tennessee loses, the Colts are a win away from being a game back in the standings in the AFC South. As good as Tennessee's been, and they're already 1 game back in the wild card race. So I think they are. Yeah, they're because New England's the 7 seed right now, and they're 5-4, if I'm not mistaken. Colts are 4-5-1, or what are the Colts? 4 whatever and whatever. Like they're in the mix.
Yeah, the Colts are 4-5-1, Tennessee 6-3. So they would be half a game back if they beat Tennessee this weekend.
It's interesting, man. And then what are they going to do in the offseason? Like, does Saturday really play into this? Is Chris Ballard going to be back?
It makes you wonder, like, is the honeymoon going to be over after 8 weeks? And Jeff Saturday kind of realizes, like, man, you mean I can't go out drinking on Saturday night with Irsay while I'm a head coach? I got to stay in the building and work.
Who's to say that? He can do whatever he wants.
That's
he
true.
Just got a job straight off the ESPN desk. You think he follows any rules?
Yeah, I mean, it could turn into a complete bleep show over there if Saturday end up staying on for the rest of the year. And I can't imagine if maybe I
You think it
completely
could? But
misread
what
the
if it
situation.
works?
What I was gonna say is if I'm Chris Ballard, I want out of that bleep show quick. I'm like, I gotta go. I'm not sticking around for this nonsense because it may work for a little bit, but that's gonna turn into a dumpster fire at some point, somewhere down the road.
You think?
Yes. It may work in the interim. It may work first part of next season if Saturday sticks around, but I just can't.
It's all about the
foresee it
quarterback.
because it turns into Irsay starting to run the team like his dad used to do, and Saturday becomes his yes man, and any GM that comes into that situation is not going to have any power, any say, and it's just gonna snowball. And
So you think the long-term future is bad? I think the short-term future is intriguing.
I
To
can
answer
go
the
on.
question, I think
Yeah.
the short-term, like this year, is intriguing. Off-season, it's gonna be one of the most intriguing off seasons in a long time.
That it will be for sure. So,
Promising, wouldn't say that,
no.
but I
Well-
wouldn't 100% write it off.
Let's see here. With that Cleveland pick, are you dead set on whichever the top wide receivers are remaining or a player like Miles Murphy, best defense available? You've got so many dang needs. You can go multiple directions with that pick. You could sell it and trade back, 5-6 spots, get you another 2, maybe get you a future 1. I don't think it's set to be on just a wide receiver or a defensive, it could be anything. The team needs, like we were talking about earlier, safety, center, guard, edge, another wide receiver. I mean, you just pick whoever's best available unless you have a great trade package on the table.
Sometimes when people say best available, it's BS. It's actually true. That's the one good thing about
For
not
one
being good.
time.
So one good thing about not being good, draft day is fun because best available really means best available.
Yeah. Will Levis thoughts. Man, he just sunk it this past weekend.
I don't know, man.
I'm hoping that alleviates the hype around him because I don't see anything to do with Will Levis. He looks like Davis Mills 2.0.
Yeah, I mean, he moves a little better. If we're being fair, a little. I'm not big on Levis. I could see Levis I don't know. I mean, I could see him going in like the Pickett range. I could see him going in the early second round. I just don't see someone falling in love with him and taking him in the top 10. I could be wrong. Hell, you might have to clip this video and he's the number 1 pick for the Texans and I'm just going to look like an idiot. But that's kind of how I see the Will Levis thing.
Yeah.
Although I don't know when CJ goes either.
That's the, you see all these early mocks right now and it's
always the quarterbacks though in the early mocks.
Right. But I think when draft day comes around, he could easily be the number 2 pick. He could easily be pick 30. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out because it's really hard he's got so much talent up there. The wide receiver group is so talented up there, especially with Brian Hartman as the coach up there for wide receivers. And is it going to translate his skill set? He's a much bigger player than Young. He can make all the same throws as well, but he's so inconsistent. He'll have a quarter that just makes no sense, and he just makes all these horrible decisions. And then the next 2 quarters, he throws 6 touchdowns, and it just makes no sense to me. I mean,
but that happens in college sometimes.
Yeah, there's definitely more flash and more ups and downs with college ball for sure. Hope the Texans are aggressive on day 1 and trade up into that bottom quarter for a guy they really want. You can do that too. I mean, you got plenty of ammo. You can move around.
Nice to have an extra second rounder, I think you definitely do that, but sometimes you don't get the trade done. Sometimes you just don't get the trade done. For whatever reason, you just don't get it done. You could have a second round pick, you don't get it done. Whatever reason. Maybe they get that second round pick in the offseason. I don't know. Might be more like a 5th.
Oh, I see what you did there. That was cute. Stroud equals EJ Manuel. Bold comp.
I don't even think they play alike.
No, Chuck may be off on that one. Chuck,
Yeah, I don't think they really play alike.
Second round pick or a 5th round pick. There's no way you're getting a 2nd round pick for Brandon Cooks in the offseason. You can stamp it, record this, blast me on Twitter when it happens in the offseason.
Well, I think you would love to be wrong about that.
Well, I would love to be wrong, but it's not happening. It's going to be a 5th round pick. 5th round pick. Unless they want to take on some money, maybe it'll be a 4th round pick.
If they get a second in the offseason,
they'll play the how much money do I want to pay to get that draft pick to go up another round or 2?
Not a great receiving group, though, free agents.
Nope, it is not. Let's see here real quick.
But it's a very good draft.
Is it? I haven't really looked that hard, but heard it was like there was more top heavy, not a lot of
top heavy, but that's top heavy. When you start talking top heavy, you're talking, second. You're talking 2nd round.
So wide receivers on the free agent market. Landry is correct. It is a who's who of wide receiver 3s and 4s. Yep. Nelson Aguilar, DJ Chark, Marvin Jones, he's 33. Julio Jones, that's even worse. Byron Pringle, no. Alan Lazard, maybe. Jacoby Myers up in New England, but I think they're going to re-sign him. Juju Schuster-Smith, he's actually having a decent back half of the season. Kansas City will probably try to re-sign him. Texans great Randall Cobb will be a free agent.
He'll be retired.
Yeah. N'Keal Harry, golly. Matt Collins.
Yeah, I'm telling you. So it's bad. That's the point. It's bad.
Yeah, I mean, because
before all this
nonsense went down, I was big into, you draft another wide receiver in day 2, early day 2 to kind of work in behind Brandon Cooks. But now you're going to move Brandon Cooks and you got to get a guy in here and start working fast because Nico Collins is going to become your wide receiver 1. And he's not a true number 1, but he's a very good, probably like a 1B, 1A kind of guy. Maybe he keeps progressing, but
damn, tap the brakes, man. Let him become a solid number 2 before you start saying stuff like that.
He is a solid number 2.
I mean, geez, I like the progress he's made, but let's slow down a little bit there. You're gonna set him up for failure. Just let him become a number 2 that can stay on the field consistently.
Why do you say let him become a number 2? He is a number 2.
No, a number 2, not a number 2 here. A number 2. There's a big difference when we're talking about players. Okay, there's a number 2 here, and there's a number 2, like a solid number 2 receiver.
So you're saying if you put him on like the Minnesota Vikings behind Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, he would not be wide receiver 2 there.
Correct. And if you do that throughout the league, there's times where he's behind 3.
Okay. Fair enough.
I want him to become a number 2. Davis Mills is QB1, but I want him to become. I want them to get a QB1.
He's QB 33. No draft trade.
Is Kyle Allen 32?
He might be. I don't want him to see the field. Keep doing what they're doing. I'm afraid they're going to bring him out in like week 15 and he's going to string together a win and it's going to ruin all this nonsense. Nick better be up in Lovie's ear. Kyle Allen stays on the sideline. Yep. Chuck is out of his mind. All right. That's an hour and 4 minutes. I don't see any other comments coming in.
There you go. Just a prisoner to the comments. Just not ready to perform.
I'm a man of the
prisoner to the comments.
Man of the people. Trying to let the folks get their voice heard.
Prisoner of the comments.
So Kenyon Green's going to get another peek at a very good defensive tackle group this week. We'll see what happens. It's going to be another week where the Houston fans get to see a potential free agent defensive tackle out there wreaking havoc on the interior line, Deron Payne. So we'll see if Jonathan Allen, I don't think he's a free agent. I think they just signed him.
Cap,
Yeah,
keep your focus.
they re-signed him. Yeah, so it'd be
You were doing a hell of an outro there, and you just stopped in the middle to check if Jonathan Allen was a free agent.
I can edit that out. So
That's not a man of the people right there.
That is a man of people. They wanted to know, is Jonathan Allen a free agent or not? No, he just signed a big extension. Cap, pay attention. Deron Payne. So keep an eye on him. See if he makes you excited as a potential signing for this team next year, or they just go to draft everything. Thoughts on sending Cooks and future picks on? Whoa,
Come
okay.
on, what are we doing? Stop.
No,
I don't want to play Madden right now.
No, Detroit. I'm not going to take it. This last one. Biggest acquisition for vet. That's your biggest acquisition. That is your.
See, you're just letting the comments berail you now.
I got to start screening these. I got to start reading them before I click show.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, unexpected truth, man. That no.
Yeah, Kyle Allen is a veteran backup. So yeah.
All right. Appreciate everybody listening in. You can follow me on Twitter at Texans Cap and Trade YouTube channel. Mr. Landry Locker, always thank you for your time tonight, sir.
All right, man.
Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Landry Locker and the Locker Room on YouTube. Daily content being pumped out over there, if not more than daily. So let Cap go to bed.
Cap is on something right now. Goodness gracious.
All right. Let's see. I'm hiding the comment box now. That's what I need to do. Just not even.
There you go.
All right. No, I appreciate everybody. Folks on Twitter Spaces, I appreciate you listening in. Thank you for all the comments. And we will be back next week, same time for the Cap and Trade show next Wednesday, 9:00. Landry, have a good evening, sir.
You too, man.
All right. See y'all. We'll get the podcast version out soon. Everybody have a good evening. Thank you.